Hello, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101. What you're going to learn today is how to select the right target. So you have the right target for what you're shooting. And first thing we're going to cover layered foam targets. Now, the layered foam targets consist of multiple layers of foam compressed together for the target. Now, this type of target is good for field points. You can shoot broadheads into them, but you'll end up cutting chunks of the target out. What happens when you shoot into this type of target is the arrow will go between the layers of foam, but sometimes they will actually go into the layer of foam. Not a big problem. It just puts a little small little round hole in the target. Now, when you're shooting field tips at the layered targets and moving around, you can get a few thousand shots before the target is worn out. However, if you shoot broadheads at the target, what happens is the blades of the broadhead cut through the layers of foam. And after a few shots in the same area, you will see chunks of target coming out. When you shoot broadheads at a layered foam target, you can expect to get several hundred shots before it's worn out. Moving around helps make a little bit longer life out of it. Next, I'm going to cover is solid foam targets. There are several different solid foam targets. Some of them, the popular ones, are used for broadheads and the 3D targets. Those are also solid foam. The 3D target, what that is, it's a life-sized and shaped like an animal. If you're shooting at a deer target, it's roughly the same size as a full-size deer. If you're shooting at a pig or a hog, they're that size. They have scoring rings such as 12, 10, 8, and 5. You get 5 points just for hitting the target anywhere. But I was thinking, it'd be better to score if you're like in a real life hunting situation. It'd be scored like 10, 12, 10, 8, and a -10 or a -5. If you're hunting and you hit in what they count you as 5 ring, you actually would have a wounded animal. So, getting 5s is not what most people try for anyway, but, that would be an interesting event to have one like that. Next, I'm going to cover what they call ragbag targets. What a ragbag target is, you have a face that has nothing in it. You have what you can replace the outsides with them. Some are made just for, putting stuff in and have like a Velcro closure. So the replacement target faces, you just fasten them on when you get them all full of, zip ties to close them up. That's the two different types. One's designed just to replace a worn out cover, and the other one is actually designed to put clothes in. Now, just one thing to remember, if you're using old clothes to fill them up, which is good, I've made a couple targets that way, remember to remove the zippers, the buttons, snaps, or anything hard, because you don't want to have your arrow come in and all of a sudden you're going to hit a snap that was on a pair of the jeans or something, or the buttons. I know the buttons are, just a plastic, but still you want to remove all those. Now, an alternate to filling them with clothes is you could actually fill them with plastic bags instead of the clothes. That'd be one way to recycle plastic bags, but it'd take an awful lot of them. But it'd be one way of doing it. With either method, as the insides get shot up a little bit, just stuff more plastic bags or more clothes into it. The clothes, I've had someone made up, and at 70 pounds, I shot it at just a foot or two, and just reached up, 2 fingers, pulled it out. They pull out really easy. Now, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, broadhead targets are almost always a solid foam target. As the broadhead is shot into the target, it will make 3 cuts. If it's a 3-bladed broadhead, 2 cuts if it's 2-bladed one. And you want to shoot into a solid foam because you're just making those 3 cuts. You can also shoot field tips into them, but they're more designed for the broadheads. They'll still stop them, no problem shooting field tips into them. Now, what you're going to do with those is you're still going to want to shoot your broadheads whether it's fixed point or mechanicals, to make sure that they fly like your field tips. And there's a good chance that they don't, just because the way they're designed. So that's why you have separate broadhead targets, just so that you can practice with them. And don't forget to replace the blades or sharpen the blades before you actually go hunting with them. Now, another target that has a specific purpose is the crossbow targets. Now, these targets are designed to stop the bolts shot from a crossbow, because the crossbow, they can generate more force. They have to be designed to stop them in a shorter period of time. The crossbow bolts are normally shorter than an arrow, so that's why you need to stop it a little quicker. If you have a crossbow and a compound, say shooting the same weight, the same speed, so you would expect the same penetration, where you get several inches sticking out of a target with an arrow. You may only get just an inch or two sticking out with the crossbow bolt. So what happens is, if you shoot a crossbow bolt into a target made for regular arrows, you can bury them clear up to the fletching, or sometimes past the fletching, so you really can't see them. You have to take the target apart just to get your bolts back out. And that's why crossbow targets are made out of a little denser material, or sometimes they're just compressed a little bit more to be able to stop those. Now, you have field targets for longbows and recurves. Normally, they're like a 4-foot round target. They can be shot, 60, 80, 100 yards. They can be shot closer, but, they use those, for some of the longer ranges as well, because it's a 4-foot diameter target. These targets have a single spot that has different colors for each scoring ring. They'll have like 2 scoring rings per color, but there's multiple colors, so you can always see the center one, which is, most of them I'm saying are yellow on those great big targets. You can use the smaller targets for closer range, but you're not quite as accurate. Most people aren't quite as accurate with a recurve or longbows, so it's nice to have a little bit bigger target. Now, another one that we used to use a while back was either hay or straw bales. Now, if you're shooting in those, you want to make sure you're shooting the lighter pound recurves and longbows. If you're shooting a real heavy one, sometimes they can get buried completely in the hay bale. Most of your medium to high weight compounds would have too much power and it would go through the bales. Now, if you're using the great big large round bales, your arrow would end up inside of the bale someplace, and farmers wouldn't like that too well if they unbailed and all of a sudden they got arrows in their targets. Now, something that's not used as much now because they've got better targets. Some of your ranges, they used to use cardboard targets. Now, these targets are made of layered cardboard. You lay them on the sides, you're shooting into the ends of the cardboard. And ranges like this or used to use this a lot because it was easy to replace or move the cardboard around. Everybody seems to shoot in the same spot, so as that gets shot up, you can take the target apart, rearrange everything, and get more use out of the target. They're not used as much now. One of the problems that we had when they were popularly using those was your aluminum arrows. They were good. It'd stop the backstops, but as you get carbon arrows started coming into favor a little bit more, the carbon arrows were shooting faster. Their surface was a little bit rougher, and they'd get a little hot going into the cardboard. Well, the cardboards, they're glued together, so there's a lot of glue in there, and this arrow going in would generate enough heat that would actually soften the glue, and then it would glue part of the cardboard. So you'd pull them out and you'd actually have part of the cardboard would be glued to your shaft. You have to scrape it off. So what we started doing was using like an ivory soap and soap in the shafts so they slide a little bit better. And then as the heat generates, the glue doesn't stick to the soap quite as well. So that's a little bit on the different targets. And that way you know what you're looking for when you get ready to get a target. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that make a lot of targets, so they're all good. Block is a popular name that has been used, but there's a lot of other ones that make similar ones. They're just a layered foam that's compressed together. Now, if you want to watch other instructional videos or get archery tips or advice, I'd recommend you joining the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description so you can click on it to go to it. This has been Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Archery Talk 101.